Welcome to the Hard Truth Podcast. This is Jeremy Fouts, and today we have a special guest here in the studio, Jeremiah Gonzalez. And today's episode, we are going to be talking about why not you. And I'm excited, Jeremiah, to have you here on the podcast. This is something we've been trying to line up in my schedule and your schedule for some time. And, why not you? I'll let you kind of describe why we picked this subject for today's podcast. But for all you listening today, one of the reasons why I started the Hard Truth podcast is to really push yourself to go out and be the best that you can be, in every aspect of your life. And one of those aspects though, Jeremiah, is starting within. It's basically setting a goal and saying, you know what, I'm not going to live a mediocre life. I'm going to push myself to be the best I can be. And one of the things that's inspiring for me about your story is we sometimes hear your story of what you accomplished here this past year, and you think automatically that can't be me. And then another thing that you're thinking is man, can your body really withstand that? And I think what's comical is God made us to be so special, and we can do so much more physically if we get our mind right. And that's what you did during this accomplishment here. But give us a little bit of background. We're going to get into your story, what you accomplished this past year from a physical standpoint. If any of you listening, you love to run, or maybe you've always wanted to run, you're going to love this, as Jeremiah is going to share his testimony of what you can do if you make small goals with a big goal at the end that you're really focusing on. So, Jeremiah, it's an honor and a pleasure to have you here in the studio today. Give us a little bit of background on who you are as a person, first and foremost, a little bit about what you do for a living, and then let's get into the story and hopefully push and challenge the listeners today to go out and do something special like what you've done.
Let's go! What up?
All right, awesome. Thanks for having me, Jeremy. Like you said, it's probably been almost 6 months since we've been trying to get together. So
Yeah.
I think it would have been better if I would have been on earlier, because now you've had some superstars on here, and I feel like I'm this regular guy.
You are a superstar, man. After they hear your story, they're going to put you up at the top.
I appreciate that. But yeah, so a little bit background on what I do currently right now. I'm in software sales. I've been doing that for about 17 years, ever since I came out of the Air Force, and I travel all the time, as you know. You travel all the time.
Yeah.
So in those last 17 years, actually the other day, I was on a flight back from Germany, and the captain came out and was like, I wanted to congratulate you. This is your flight for 2 million miles. So you've flown. He's like, you've flown more than me.
That's
And
crazy.
yeah, I was like, really? Wow. And then the guy next to me was trying to take a picture with me, and I was like, I'm not a celebrity. But yeah, so I have 4 kids, so that's hard. That's hard with traveling, and it keeps you busy. And then with traveling, I travel both, all over the U.S. and internationally. So trying to keep up with my schedule and trying to be committed to a training regime of some sort is hard. You have to be really dedicated.
Well, the U.S. travel is one thing, but the international travel, I've did a lot of it. I mean, a lot of people that's not experienced that. I mean, you're flying over to another country, and it could be 12 hours different time schedule.
Exactly.
I mean, it definitely plays a toll on your body.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then you're just constantly changing time zones, like you said.
Right.
That's the tough part. Yeah, so a little bit of background, sort of how I got into running and like my story a little bit. So as a kid, you're in elementary school, they have like sprinting races that we do during recess, right? And I recognized early on that I was really competitive in that. I was like, I wanted to be the fastest one in like 3rd grade, 4th grade, whatever. But also at the same time, I was really shy. Most people don't realize that about me. Growing up, I was very shy. And so I remember some people making fun of the way I ran, some of my peers, like
Right.
the way I was sprinting.
That's what kids do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So I was like, well, maybe I should think about my form. Maybe I should think about how it looks. And it helped me. It helped me improve. And so I went from that to where my dad was always running. I noticed that. My dad always lifted weights and ran. And so I was like, Dad, I run at school all the time. I can run with you. And he sort of chuckles a little bit. He's like, okay, let's see you. Let's come out with me the next time I go. And he's like, I'll run 2 miles. I go, I probably do more than that in recess, right? So we start taking off, and I kid you not, we're maybe 4 or 5 houses down from our house. And I'm like, I can't keep this pace up. Like, there's no way. I had to stop. And he saw that I was struggling. He's like, hey, don't worry about how fast I'm going. Just go run your own pace and go do your own thing. And so that was about 5th, 6th grade was when I started running. And I rather quickly I was keeping track of my time, and I saw I was improving rapidly. And I realized, well, this is actually something I'm really good at.
Right.
So it went from that, where I was starting to run 2 miles every day, where my dad put me into local races. And then I just kept winning my age group over and over and over. And I was like, wow, this is easy. There's a problem with that, though, right?
Right.
When you're a kid, something comes easy. How much effort do you put into it?
Not a lot.
No, especially with the raw talent. You're like, I don't need to. So, there was times where he was like, well, this is good enough. And the reason why is I was never really explained, you have to have goals, right? It's not just good enough that I'm going to go out and run, or I'm going to go out and lift weights, or whatever it is. You have to actually have a goal behind why you're doing it, and a reason. And so as a kid, it was just, I did it because I wanted to be faster, or I wanted to go win a race. But it was what race, what reason after that.
Right.
And so that progressed where I went into 7th grade, and it was the first time I noticed defeat. I was running a half mile in track, and one of the other team members of mine, all of a sudden I was first the first couple meets and beat everybody else out there. And then all of a sudden he beat me like the 3rd or 4th race. And I was like, whoa, what's happening? And then the next race he beat me again, and the next race. And I was really, really fast. And so was he. I'll put it to the point. We broke the school record there multiple times that season for our grade. But it made me realize, whoa, he was putting in the work. He was doing the things that I wasn't doing, and that's why he was beating me over and over again.
Right.
And for the rest of that season, I never beat him. I was within a fraction of a second of beating him at the very last race, but I still never beat him. And then I realized, there's something to that. But again, you're a kid,
right,
and you're lazy, right? So if your goal is if you don't have a goal, you have a goal.
Right.
Let me put it that way. My goal was, how can I play more video games, and how can I just relax, right? Or go hang out with my friends. And so that's why a lot of times I didn't run outside the season. So 8th grade comes along, another really cool thing, but another really bad thing for me. So the high school coach says, hey, I'm going to bring you to a cross-country meet from middle school. Even though we don't have a team where you are, I'm going to bring you to this big meet with all these other schools. So I was like, okay. So I went and ran that meet, and I beat everybody there. And all the other teams were like, who is this person? Like, where did they get this person, this team, right? You're the only one. And so again, pat myself on the back. Look at how good I am. I don't train very consistently, and I beat everybody there. So I didn't train much. Went in the track season. I did really well, but here's the problem. The school record, which has been there for a long, long time, I missed that school record twice by 3 seconds the last 2 meets of the year. I just didn't have the depth to get there because I didn't train. And so that was upsetting a little bit to me. Shortly after that, my parents went through a divorce, and because of that, it sort of affected some other things. Right before that divorce happened, I went to 9th grade, and then more success. I trained that summer really good for the first time, and then went into the cross-country season, and I was the first person on the team, the fastest one coming out of camp, fastest one. I'm beating the seniors, juniors, everybody, and had a lot of success. I had the fastest record for freshmen in 25 years in the entire county. I ran low 17s that year, and nowadays that's still really good for freshmen, but that's not. There's a lot better training, right? Someone in the 16s much better. So that was another thing. I was like, oh wow, I'm doing really well. Right. So the divorce happened right after that, and I sort of used that as an excuse of, I'm not going to train. I really don't care. Like, it was, you're a kid, and you sort of think, hey, this is an excuse I can use. So I didn't train outside the season after that. I come into my sophomore year, and I'm out of shape for cross country, and so now I'm working my way back down. And so I don't get any faster than I did the previous year. I get back in the 17s again, but I don't break that. And then that's the consistent story for the rest of my high school time, where I never got any faster again. And I just sort of was like, I'll train only in the season, and that's terrible. The worst thing you could do is not put in the work. And I focused more on my goals at that point became making more money, working more. I went away from the athletic side, even though I wanted to be that. And actually, my senior year, I didn't even run cross country. Now, I get married shortly thereafter that. What I figured out, and I've been told this my whole life, is consistency, right?
Yep.
So if you're not consistent, you're not going to have the results.
Yep.
So I gave examples to my son. I go, listen, if you're working out 4 days a week, and your buddy's working out 6 days a week, right? He's getting 2 days every week more than you.
Yeah.
At the end of that month, he's getting more than a week on you. Yeah. Every single month, he's getting an extra week of working out, extra week of progress. So the biggest thing is first consistency. And I don't care what it looks like. I don't care if like today you have 10 minutes, right? You go and do your 10 minutes.
Yeah.
one of the things that I always put on myself was, if I can't do all of it, then I failed.
Right.
And I think a lot of us do that.
Oh yeah.
The big thing is, if you just get out and do something, just spend some time doing what you know that it's going to help you, whether that's, hey, I'm going to do some push-ups. I'm going to go and I'm just going to run 1 mile because that's all I have time for. That's going to help you.
Oh yeah.
Because it's the consistency.
Yeah. Talking about consistency, I always tell everyone, Jeremiah, it's easy to make a plan. It's easy to do a plan, but it's hard to do it consistent.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you and I right now, we can write out a running schedule for me. I'm going to do a half marathon here shortly, and we can write the schedule out. That's easy. And I can go run tomorrow. That's pretty easy. But can I do it again the next day, and whatever other days that you slotted for me to do it? That's the key to anything in life.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter if it's running, if it's business, working on relationships, your spiritual, whatever it is. It's being consistent.
Absolutely. That's it. I
Yeah.
mean, and people just don't realize the importance, and it's the power of, they talk about compound interest, right? That's
Yeah.
your compound interest for
Exactly.
you, is the consistency. Your priorities, what your priorities are, you're
Right.
going to go, you pursue. So
Right.
people say, well, I don't, like, I really want to do this, but if you end up, you're watching TV for 3 hours a night, 4 hours a night, or scrolling for 3, 4 hours a night, that's your priority. You really want to do that.
Right.
You may not say it is a priority, but you do your priorities.
Right.
And sometimes it's hard to swallow. It's hard to accept that. And believe me, I'm the first one that'll tell you it's hard. It's not easy doing these things. It's hard to travel. I've been traveling where I get to a hotel and out of the country or in DC or wherever at 11:30 at night, and I haven't worked out yet because I haven't had a chance with meetings. So what do? I get in that gym and I get it done. I'm the only one in there at that time, and I get it done. And I know I'm getting that 4 hours later, and it's gonna happen though.
Right.
And then I'm gonna go work out maybe 7 hours later, or maybe that next night again. But I have a goal, right? That's the first thing, is you have to have a goal, and you have to have some sort of plan. If you don't have a plan with your goal, then it's just a dream. It's not gonna ever happen.
It's not going to work.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I realized, because over the years when I was training before, I just was training to be in shape, just to run, to see what I could do. There was no goals behind it.
Yeah.
Every once in a while I run a race, but it wasn't like I was setting an actual goal for anything.
Right.
And so that's a big, big difference.
Yeah.
And the accountability part, who are you accountable to? Obviously you're accountable to yourself, but that only takes you so far, because your own internal mind will tell you, I'm done. I don't need to do this today. I'm tired.
Right.
So when that happens, what do? Who are you accountable to? Right. Being accountable to you, for example, being accountable to me. Like when you and I have lifted and worked out together, we've done different things.
For all of you listening, when I've known Jeremiah, like you said, for 10 years, and when he told me he was going to, compete in this 100-mile race is what the max was, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
24-hour race.
24-hour race,
is your goal.
100 miles is your goal. So in 24 hours, the goal is to run 100 miles. Obviously, you're going to listen to a story here in a second. He fell a little bit short of the 100 miles, but when you hear what he ran, you won't think that that's a downgrade from what he was trying to accomplish. But I one of the things I want the listeners to listen to is some of my best mentally prepared times of my life was when I had something on the books. And like what you're talking about, I'm going to train for this. I used to run half marathons all the time, and I wasn't trying to compete at half marathons to necessarily win every age group that I was running in, because I had a lot of business and stuff like that that I was going through. But I wanted to make sure every time I ran one, I improved my time. But the biggest thing that did for me is it knew that 90 days from now, I have this on the schedule. And I'm big on 90-day goals. You've been around me for a long time, and that's one thing I want the audience to really listen to this part of the story, where you see something, a friend mentions it to you, and you say, why not me? I mean, I definitely have went through phases of my life where I've had great success in running, even starting at 6th and 7th grade in high school. And then I started running again later on when I had too much McDonald's, and had some good runs and different things. But you wasn't saying, why not me, as far as run again, but you was saying, why not me, go push myself to the limits.
Exactly.
And here's when I'm going to do this, and here's what I got to do in order to accomplish this. And I think that's the most powerful part of this story is, I mean, you're not a young guy anymore. You look young, but you're not a young guy anymore. And this audience pretty much is between 28 to 45.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I want your story to make an impact to them is most people that 28 to 45, Jeremiah, they pretty much have given up.
Yeah.
I mean, they especially men, and they think my job now is just to protect, provide, make sure that we have the lights on, make sure we have food on the table. And I think that is just so much problems with manhood today, where God made us to constantly fight and pursue, happiness through pushing ourselves, and pushing ourselves to become the best we can be in all areas of our life. And I think a lot of that starts with physical, obviously spiritual, but I think physically, until you push yourself, you're not going to have the confidence to become a true man and become the man that God made you to be. So share with us, like, from when your friend, talked to you about this, first off, when you first heard about it, 100 miles in 24 hours, did you just think this is crazy? Or did you think, I can do this? And then just talk us through how you planned and what you did during this race.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, just to give a little background, at that time in my life, I was going through a divorce.
Okay.
And so, I was trying to refocus on a lot of things, spiritually in particular, like you mentioned. Everything I do, I believe, is through God, and I'm thankful to God for everything that I have. And so, my buddy who I met, actually, I used to have a YouTube video channel I was doing that while I was traveling, I was interviewing people while they were out on runs. I'd have this gimbal that I'd run with, right? And I'd come up to random people and say, that are running, and I say, my basic thing is, why do you run? What do you, who are you? Why are you running? And I called it interviews on the run. And he was one of the people that saw my online profile, and he's like, man, I love this stuff. And we started talking, and he lives in England. And actually, one of the times while I was out in England, him and I did a training session together, and I recorded it and did it for the thing. So I'd known him for a few years. And so, I'd mentioned to him, hey, David, let's go and do a race this coming up year. And I'm thinking he's going to say maybe a 5K, 10K, maybe half marathon, right?
Right.
He goes, oh, that's great. He goes, in June, and this is December, he goes, in June, I have a 24-hour, 100-mile race. And I laughed. I said, no, like, David, that's not what I'm talking about. Like, I'm not trying to die.
Right.
I'm not trying to, like, this is, okay, you have to understand, too, I've ran over all these years, right? But I've only run, up until that point, a half marathon one time.
Okay.
I'd never run further than that, ever. My long runs were 10 to 12 miles max.
Right.
So for me to even consider, I'd never even considered a marathon, because I thought, you know what, it's too long, it's too much. And the reason why initially I thought that was too much earlier on was because I'd always end up, as I started training more, get shin splints,
Right.
to a point where I had to stop running, and it happened over and over and over again. So I was like, I'm not made to run that distance. And so, yeah, I laughed. And then after I thought about it, and I was thinking, well, why not me?
Yeah.
Why can't I? Like, he's done this race before. And it'd been 2 years or 3 years, and he wanted to go and redo it. And he had to stop early. He had an injury. And so he's like, I want to go do this. And I thought, well, all these people are doing it. Why can't I do it?
Yeah.
Yeah, why not me? So I told him, I go, okay, David, I'm going to do it. And initially he had told me, he goes, I thought you were joking, right? He goes, buy your ticket to get to the race because it'll sell out. There's only so many slots, all these things, right? And so I had done that. And then I had to...
Well, and that's key too, not to interrupt you, but most people, what they have done, what they would do, Jeremiah, is they wouldn't buy the ticket. They wouldn't buy the airplane flights. And they're going to say, well, we'll just see how this goes.
Exactly.
I see that over and over with the men that I work with. That they'll maybe buy a few nutritional products, get a workout or two, and instead of buying a 90-day plan, they're just like, oh, let me just see how this goes. So I didn't want to interrupt you, but I mean, that's what you did was critical. You was not second guessing. You was saying, I'm going to do this next June.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And this is December for the listeners, to remind them.
That's right.
This is December of 23, and you did this in June of 24.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I knew I had a 6 months.
So 6 month training time.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, and even though I bought the ticket to do the race, right? You think, well, it's only, $100 or whatever.
Right.
No, it's not a big deal, right? You can use that. There's always an excuse. You can always come up with an excuse why not to do something you've already committed to, right? But like you said, it's why. How do you commit? You start there.
Right.
That's the first step. And so the other part was, okay, you know what? I need some sort of way to be accountable. How do I become accountable? So I said, I'm going to go ahead and document this and make TikTok videos. I'm just going to open up a channel and the one I had small stuff, and I don't care about followers. I don't care about anything besides the fact that I need to be accountable to myself.
Right.
And so it's not very great content. It's
Right.
just, hey, this is what I did today. I just finished. I usually recorded right before I did it and then right after.
Right.
And so I would do day one, right? I did why I'm doing it. And then I read some books along the way, right? You all know David Goggins, a very big inspiration.
Yes.
Some of his books with what he's been through and what he's experienced, and it's the training he's done as well, inspired me.
Oh, yeah.
Because he went out of nowhere and did a 100-mile race.
Yeah.
He destroyed himself, right?
Right.
He ended
Right.
up in the hospital,
Right.
but he
did
finished
the race.
it. Yeah, yeah.
And he didn't die.
Yeah, he did
Yeah.
not. He's done
Yeah.
many now. He's
Yeah.
very successful. But again, that inspired me. Well, you know what? Why not? Why not me again? So really important, right? I told you I've been injured over this time, many times as I increased mileage. I think I had up until a few years before that, I got up to my biggest week was around 55, 60 miles a week before really bad shin splints set in and I couldn't run again. So I was like, okay, I know a lot about training. I know a lot about what I need from a nutrition standpoint. Supplements are everything.
Yes.
So I'm going to be very, very consistent. So one of the things I did was every day that I ran, the next day I wear a different pair of running shoes. So I had 2 pairs I was running in, and I made sure I tracked my mileage. I'm a firm believer in having 2 different brands of running shoes because your body will adapt to whatever you're doing. It's like if you're doing the same curls every single day, right? Your body adapts to that, gets used to
Right.
that. As soon as you change it a little bit, maybe you twist your wrist or you do hammer curls or whatever it might be, you're like, wow, I'm so sore, right?
Right.
So that creates, you can become more prone to injury if you have the exact same style of running
So wearing
shoes.
the same shoes every day, you're saying your feet, your stance, your stride, everything kind of adapts to that shoe. And so that's what's going to maybe prevent injury by going to a different pair. That way your
Correct.
body don't stay separate from being consistent to one shoe.
Exactly, because you're going to get weak points that you're not hitting. Now, the
Right.
other shoe is not going to give you the same stability, right? So it's going to change your weak points. You're going to be hitting muscles differently.
Okay.
The other thing was I was committed no matter what I'm going to run on the trails, and there's not much here in Texas that are not paved, right?
No, there's a lot of pavement.
Yeah,
here. Yeah.
but there's some great ones
Yeah.
nearby. And so problem though with Texas is too, as soon as it starts raining,
Yeah.
and the mud hits, they close the trails.
Right.
So for a while there, I was able to really consistently hit the trails. But then when I'm traveling, it's treadmills or it's city runs. It is what it is. So I was like, okay, I'm still doing good with this. And I remembered all through my process, the importance of bananas, right? In
Right.
addition to that, also hydration, very, very critical.
And what's your favorite hydrate product? I love this.
CorVive,
CorVive.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So let me break it down to you actually, sort of how I do things in the morning. First thing I do when I get up is I make a drink with the protein powder that you
Yep.
have, the collagen and protein.
Yep.
Right? The CorVive hydrate, right? And then I take my vitamins,
Yep.
right? Whatever extra supplements I'm taking. 30 minutes. I really believe within the first 30 minutes of waking up that you need protein to get your metabolism and body going.
Right.
But it also helps me so that my body's prepared to break into that when I need it for these longer training sessions.
Yeah, because hydration is key, right? We got to be hydrated. And we talk about that and we see that a lot. But also from the collagen and the protein, which is a grass-fed protein that we have, it's important for those branched chain amino acids to be fuel for your muscles during the run or during the workout. A lot of people don't understand that.
Yeah.
Hydration is big, and a lot of people kind of have bought into that concept now, but a lot of people don't understand your muscles need fuel.
Exactly.
And yes, your muscles are going to get hydrated from a good hydration product, but they also need fuel to be able to perform.
Yeah, quick, easy to burn,
Yeah.
something that's light in your stomach. That's the
Right.
great thing about your protein,
Right.
is I can literally drink it, and minutes later I can go for a run, and I don't have
Right.
any issues.
It's in your system within 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Where if you ate 5 raw eggs, which I love eggs, regardless if you do them raw or what, sunny side up or anything, but it takes like a couple hours. You do a steak, it takes like 4 hours to see the benefit into your muscles.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm good on all whole foods, don't get me wrong, but you're not going to get the same impact of eating eggs or steak first thing in the
you
morning
feel
if you're going to run in 30 minutes.
Yeah, 100% you feel that.
Right.
And that's that's the last thing you want to be. You want it
Right.
to be light. You want to feel, but you want to have the fuel, like you said, and that's
Yeah.
the key. So, I mean, yeah, your product's phenomenal. I've tried many, many different products over the years. There's a lot of products out there that are hard to trust, right?
Right.
That you don't know. I know you. I know the quality of what you put into it.
Yeah.
Very, very important to me. I don't have to think about it.
Right.
And I know the results. I've gotten the results.
Right.
Matter of fact, my fiance is in Turkey, right? She started taking the products 4 months ago, about 4 months ago. And if you look at the pictures from when we started dating, which was right before the race, to now, she looks like she's gone back in years.
Right.
And even her family said, "What's changed? Like, what's happened? Like, what's going on?" And she showed them like what she's been drinking. And we have these, this picture I looked at the other day from when we first met to just last week, 2 weeks ago maybe. Yeah, she looks phenomenally different.
Yeah.
Much healthier.
Grass-fed whey with the collagen, hydration, and then love. I mean, all three of those
Well, and
things.
the energy too.
Yeah, and the energy product. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love the energy.
Yeah,
product.
but nutrition, it works.
Yeah, absolutely does.
I mean, we hear it all the time, but a lot of people don't understand that. I
Yeah.
mean, and especially when you're training and pushing your body like you are. You cannot go to McDonald's and ask your body to turn that McDonald's into a high nutrition meal to fuel the body.
Exactly.
It's
No
not
way.
possible.
No, you feel terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
It might taste good for a moment.
Right.
but
Right. Yeah.
Afterwards, you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was another thing I incorporated. I was like, okay, I need to make sure to do that. Sleep. People take for granted sleep. Sleep
Yeah.
is critical. You're not going to heal. You're not going to be ready. Your body's not going to be in a state that it can be, strengthened again unless you're getting your sleep.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer about 7 hours is about perfect. Anywhere
Yeah.
from 6 to 8 is the window.
Right.
At least 6, maximum 8, and you're going to get everything you need.
Yeah.
Especially old. And just for you guys to know, I'm 45. So it's not like I'm this young guy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, he looks like he's 25. For those listening on audio, you need to go to the YouTube channel, the Hard Truth Podcast, and that way you can see how he looks. He looks like he's 25. But I'm the same way, Jeremiah. Sleep is big.
Yeah.
You've been around me for a long time. I'm a businessman. I get caught up in competition, trying to beat everybody's butt in competition and business, and I push myself, and I always had the comment, you've heard me say this a million times in my 30s, is sleep is overrated.
Yeah.
Sleep and IRS, they're overrated. Sorry, IRS. But, I always just made that comment. And until the last 4 years, I've really started pushing myself, in the gym. And I did a lot of reading on the power of sleep. And I work with a lot of young athletes too. And a lot of times when I'm working with them, they'll say, is it more important to get 2 workouts in to this day or sleep? And I'm like, sleep. I mean, your body has got to recover.
Yeah.
That's when the magic happens. Did you fuel your body during the day? And now can we sleep to restore our body and to make sure the muscles are repaired, the muscles are growing, and we're in a good state for tomorrow's workout?
100%. And you need that.
Yeah.
Proper nutrition, hydration, all those
Absolutely.
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, yeah. So that was another component of this. I was like, okay, so I'm going to focus on making sure I get my sleep. And then, as far as shin splints, another way that helps with that is by doing calf raises. So
Right.
I would do calf raises before I ran, do calf raises after I ran, and body squats. And those are pretty much the main things that helped me. I was going to focus on to make sure I didn't get any injuries. But beyond that, a lot of runners think I just run, right? I don't need to do anything else. No, you need to strength train. Strength
Right.
training is critical.
Right.
And so I made a commitment to strength train 4 to 5 days a week as well. Actually, 5 days is what I was at. And one of those days was plyometrics. And the reason why plyometrics is because it's functional. It's things that directly relates to runners, from your stride to getting your knees up, all the different things. But it also adapts your body and your legs so that they can adjust to different movements when you're out running. So that it strengthens all the different things, and you're not having any weak points, right? So the easy thing for me with plyometrics was P90X plyometrics. I just followed that, hour-long
Right.
training thing, and I did that every Wednesday, right? And I'd go run. This is my workout schedule. I'd work out with weights, and then I'd go run right afterwards.
Okay.
And so what that did was I was always fatigued. So what happens is your body uses your upper body first when you're running, and that's what it's going to use. But once your upper body's weakened, right, then your form gets worse, and you go more into your legs, and it makes it harder. So I was always going into a state where my upper body was weakened, right? But over time, my upper body kept getting stronger and stronger and stronger, so that after I finished working out, I no longer felt fatigued when I go run. I no longer felt like I'd be a little sore from lifting, but I could feel such a difference in power and endurance when I go out on my runs.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it was a huge difference.
Yeah.
And so that training cycle kept me through. So what happened was I was like, okay, I just finished the year. I looked at my mileage for the last year, and that December I ran just over 100 miles. When he said, "Hey, let's do this," and I said, "Okay, I'm gonna get my base going."
For the year of 23.
Yeah, so the year 23, I ran 660 miles total.
Okay.
Right, and December alone was 100 of those.
Okay.
So looking at those months, I had 5 months under 35 miles.
Okay.
I'm talking the entire month under
Right.
35 miles. So my base wasn't near where it should have been. And I remember my dad and my mom both called me individually and said, "I'm worried about you." I'm like, "What do you mean?" They said, "I don't want you to die. Can you please go to the doctor and make sure that you're going to be okay going to do this 100-mile race?"
Yeah.
And I laughed about it. And I said, "Yeah, I'm going to be fine." Like, "What are you talking about? There's 80-year-old men trying to do this, right?"
Right.
So I'm this younger guy.
There's more than just me that
Yeah.
said, "Why not me?"
Yeah, exactly. And, that was like, wow, that was a reality check of, first off, obviously the care,
Yeah.
but like, this is a big deal to people. They're like, this is something that people just don't hear about other people doing very often.
Right.
And I need to make sure I'm taking this very, very seriously. And so I was like, sure, I'll make sure. Like, I went to the doctor and had, all my stuff ran, and like my doctor said, "You're in great shape. Your heart and everything's like a 20 or something year old." And so like, I was like, okay, good. My blood came back good, no issues there, which is smart.
Right.
Just to be
Right.
careful. And so my first big challenge was going to be in February. This is like beginning of January now, and I was signing up for 50K. So
Okay.
I've never run anything further than a half marathon.
Okay. So make sure everybody understand. You looked at this schedule and you said June is the big day.
Yeah. So
And
180
what day
days.
was that?
Well, now I don't even know. June
Yeah.
26th, I believe.
June 26th. Okay. So it was 180 days of training is what you
29th.
had.
29th, sorry.
June 29th. So you had 180 days to prepare.
Yep.
And so what you did though is you said, okay, this is my training schedule, but I need these other markers that I feel comfortable because I've accomplished them. And so your first one that you signed up for was a 50K. And what day was that? What month was that?
That was mid-February.
Mid-February.
Yeah, and that was
you
30 so
just
that's
started
31
in
miles.
December.
Yep.
So you're already
6 weeks
going
out.
from, and I don't know the math in that. 50K is how many miles?
31.
31 miles.
Yeah.
So you went from December saying you're going to run 100 miles in June to saying I'm doing 31 miles in February
Yeah, exactly.
in 2 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good. I just want to make sure that everybody got that.
And it had been 2 years since I'd run a half marathon at that point.
Okay.
So it wasn't any time recently.
And for those listening, a half marathon is 13.1.
Yeah, that's right. And so I started
So you're about to do double than what you've done
ever.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
in
So-
2 months training.
That's right.
Yeah, you a little crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, I'm ramping up. So it's it's like 4 miles every day first week, 6 days. So my schedule was 6 days on, 1 day off. That's how I did it. 1 day of rest every Sunday, and I stretched usually that day. Just took it easy, maybe hot tub, whatever. It just depends. And at the time it was cold, so I cold plunge as well.
Right.
Because I don't have a cold plunge, I would just use a pool. And
Right. You can use mine anytime,
yeah,
man.
that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Just gotta get up at 4 though.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So so I'm getting ready, and one weekend, a Saturday morning, because that was my long run day. I went and ran with over not far from where I live right here on some trails, and there's a running group out there, and I took off with them, but I just left them all. I was running pretty quickly that day. I felt really good. I was like, I'm going to do a long run of like 12 miles today. So actually, I think it was like 10 actually was my original goal. But sometimes as I'm running, I change my goals.
Right.
And I don't know if that's just me, but
As long as it's always above.
Yeah,
what you said.
yeah,
Yeah.
well-
don't ever go down.
well,
Yeah.
sometimes, yeah,
Yeah.
you always want to go down,
yeah.
right? You always want to, it feels like, take it easy, right? That's the hard part, is continuing. And so, so I was out there running on trails, and I never run these trails, right? I've been there maybe once before, never like this. And so I wasn't really paying attention to my watch. So what I also decided for this entire training program was I'm not going to worry about my pace. I'm going to run by feel this entire time.
Okay.
I want to just go out there, and I want to enjoy this process.
Right.
And so I'm running, and then I'm at the point where I think it's buzzed enough times that I'm at my halfway turnaround point. And I look, and I'm actually a mile further than I expected.
Okay.
So I thought I was at 4, and I was already at 5 miles in. I was like, let's see. If I run another mile and a half out, and I feel great, then I'll finish a half marathon today. I'll run my second half marathon today. And this will be on the trails, where the other one was on like a concrete path, so it was easy. And so I go out there, and then I get to the turnaround point, and I'm like, okay, I'm feeling great coming back. And as I'm coming back, I get a little bit lost in the trails. And so before I know it, now I'm just over 13 miles, and I cross the half marathon point. I'm like, and I'm tired. Like
Right.
I haven't run this far, and then so I'm like looking for the exit. How do I get up in this neighborhood? I see fences. I can't get up there. Right. So I finally get to the point where I'm out of there, and it's like I'm like 0.05 away from 14 miles. So I just finished that 0.05, and then I stop, and I'm like, okay, this is my longest run ever.
Right.
And I did it fairly easily. I'm pretty happy. This was the end of January. All right, I'm feeling really good, right?
Yeah.
So I'm still, like I said, traveling all over, right? And the week before my big race, or the week of my big race, I'm sorry, I'm in San Diego for meetings and for a conference. And so literally I'm there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and my race is Saturday. And so I'm training and doing some stuff. I'm supposed to be taking it easy, and I ended up going up this huge monster hill over, I forget which golf course it is near San Diego. I'm starting the
Torrey
beach. And
Pines.
yeah. I run up
Yeah.
there. I get lost in some trails. I run a little bit extra, right? That kind of. So I'm like, okay, the next couple of days, take it easy because I need to make sure my mileage is increasing steadily, and the right consistent path, so I'm not getting injured. It's another thing is understanding that part of it. And so I finish up, and then I get up super early Saturday morning, or no, I leave Friday night for my race Saturday morning because it's a couple hours west of here.
Okay.
And then I stay at some like tiny
Yeah, I
scary
saw
motel.
that. It wasn't a 5-star hotel. I saw
No,
the pictures of
not
it.
like what, not like what I try to stay at.
Yeah.
I guess I'm a little high maintenance with that, but yeah, this was like the motel lodge, right?
Yeah.
And I'm glad the water was hot.
Yeah.
But I get there and it's cold. It's February, right? So we start in the 20s, and so my mindset is this going into that race: I just want to finish, right?
This is 31 miles.
31 miles.
As long as you've done is 14.
Yep, up until this point, my entire
Yeah.
life. I just want to finish. And mind you, I've gone longer distance, like hiking
Right.
and running, like mixture, but I've never ran like this.
Right.
And so, and that was years earlier too. But I just want to finish. I'm gonna run a pace like I've been training that feels like I can run forever. And that was sort of like my mindset, just run
Right.
a pace that runs forever. So it's mid 20s, a little bit over that. I'm the only one out there that doesn't have a hat on or some sort of beanie or something, right?
Right.
I hate those things.
Right.
But everyone's like, are you sure? Right? I'm like, no, I'm good, right? So we get going, and what it is an out and back twice.
Okay.
So you're going like 7 and change out, and then back, and then you go 7 and change again. And then so we go out there, and I'm probably like 2.5. Well, let me just put it this way: I start the race, right, and rather quickly I get to the towards the front of the group, right. I don't know how many people are in front of me because I really didn't pay attention.
Right.
But I realize there's everyone's behind me for the most part. And I'm out there running, and I'm just feeling really good. And we're about 2.5 miles in, and we're like we're at this top of this dam that goes
Yeah.
on this trail. And I'm like, man, I am too warm with this top I have on. I'm taking it off. I'm just going to wear my T-shirt from that point on. And there's a tree there, so I threw it in the tree. Great, going all the way out there. I'm like, okay, this is good. And then I had my hydration pack with my snacks and stuff because
Right.
I've never run this distance. And I'm like, man, this thing's heavy. Like, I'm getting tired of wearing this, right? So there's a checkpoint like at 5 miles in that I just threw it down there. I was like, okay, I'll come get it. And in that, I actually had two proteins,
Okay.
and I had my hydrations. I'd multiply 4 different things going on there.
Okay.
So I had down that. So I had a schedule of how I was going to fuel myself, right?
Right.
So I get up to the turnaround point, come back. Coming back, the wind was different. It was, it was cold.
Right.
It was, the sun's now coming up a little bit, so getting a little bit warmer. But man, the wind was getting my arms, and I was like, now I know why those people wear those arm things. I was like, why do they wear that? Because my arms were cold, but my core was really hot, really warm. So running back, and then I grab my pack, what I need for my pack, as I'm going by at checkpoint, and I down another energy. Or not energy, I'm sorry, another protein at that point, because I'm like, now I'm over 10 miles in approximately. And then we go, and I get to the turnaround point, and I knew this whole time, so when I got to that turnaround point, it was like 15.5 miles. This is the furthest I would have ever ran to that point, and I was going to go do that thing again.
Right.
So I get back to the beginning of the race, and I'm counting people, and I realize, whoa, I'm in 4th place. It's interesting. Like, men, like, wow, how is this possible? And so go back out, and I'm running, and again feeling really good. And then I'm like, man, I really need that fuel. Like, that's not getting there soon enough. I need it coming back. So I grab it and I pass it. And I keep my pack at this point because I just want it down the rest of it. Realized coming back that, man, I'm getting really tired because now I'm at 22 and change miles, maybe 23 miles, and I'm coming up to my first marathon ever. And I'm starting to dog it a little bit. Like, I hit a wall like around 22, 23 miles. People talk about that. I didn't really pay attention to that.
It's real.
Yeah. And now I'm running low on hydration. I don't have enough. I'm almost out of all that. I finished all my proteins, right? It's like I got a banana here. Let me eat a little bit of that. And then the guy, there's a guy behind me that that ends up passing me. And now I'm one place back. I'm like, and I go, you know what?
So
Stop.
now you're in 5th place?
Yeah. I'm like,
Okay.
stop. Don't worry about it. You're not here. You told yourself you're not here to win. You're not here to place. You're here to finish.
Right.
And so I was like, just go finish. Like, don't even think about that. And that was hard. Right.
Right.
And I ended up passing another guy, so I got back in 4th place again. But on that way back, that second time, the wind had picked up significantly. And it was like running, especially going over that long area of the dam. It was like you were running into a wind tunnel. It was, I mean, it was that tough where people were trying to walk it. It was significantly harder than any runs I'd done in a while. And so, but I'm done. Like, I'm spent. My body's exhausted, right? And then I see 3rd place guy. So I see the guy that passed me is gone. Like, I don't know where he is.
Right.
And come to find out, he was World Ironman Championship guy.
Oh,
like, yeah. So like,
he's been there. And done that.
he runs
Yeah.
he runs for another country in South America. Like, he's legit,
Right.
right? I didn't know that at the time, but I see the new 3rd place guy, and I'm catching up to him, and I'm like, all right, I realize I can't catch up to him. And I had to remind myself it wasn't my goal, because you're sort of beating yourself up, but just get as close as you can.
Right.
So we're going, and I kid you not, I think it was 8 seconds behind him when I came in. So I finished 4th.
Right.
And
It's okay.
and when I stopped running, my legs were done. Like, like, you know how, like, if you've done a really hard leg day,
Oh, yeah.
and like you're like walking all funny,
Oh, yeah.
that was me. But you times that by 10.
Right.
And fortunately, they had this pickle juice that I drank. I never thought I'd crave pickle juice, but I downed a ton of pickle juice because I ran out of hydration, so I wasn't getting my salts.
Right.
And that was a mistake. As cool as it was, and I still needed more of
Right.
my electrolytes. That was still a problem.
Yeah.
So I downed a bunch of those, and I ate a bunch of oranges, and that sort of fixed me.
Right.
But then I was like, man, I did this, and I took 4th. Wow.
Yeah.
Like, I remember when I hit
Big accomplishment.
when I hit my marathon point, I was like, okay, I took a picture with my phone because it was like I hit a marathon, my first one during that race, and then I did 5 more miles, right? But yeah, it was huge. So I did my first marathon and 50K all in one day.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so I was feeling really good, feeling really
Yeah.
confident.
Yeah.
And so now this is where the training starts picking up, right? It's supposed to start picking up. But
This is in February.
Yeah.
So you still have to go till June.
yeah, exactly. So now I noticed, like, I run the next day, no problem, and then the day after that, all of a sudden my right foot's hurting. I'm like, what's happening here? And then, I took a couple days off.
Right.
But as I start running, and then my right foot's bothering me, and then I'm like, man, this doesn't feel good. And then it's worse the next day. I'm like, ooh, this is, like, it's actually painful. Like, it's
Right.
bad. Like, I'm doing damage. Something's going on here. So I was trying to figure out what it is. So I start researching everything online that I can, right? What's going on? What did I do? How can I fix this? And, resting it, and I'm jumping on the bike. I'm doing super minimal to no mileage, and a week goes by and I'm still not better. A week and a half, almost 2 weeks, and I'm like, it feels pretty good. Okay, I'm gonna get out there, and I'm running, and then like a mile in, boom, it hits again, and it gets really, really bad. I'm like, well, this is a problem.
Yeah.
I only have so many days, and I need to build this base back up. So it took me 3 weeks to figure it out. And what it was the shoes that I ran in for the race, phenomenal shoes, but the way they were hitting my outer foot caused a problem in there. And that brand was still causing a problem whenever I ran in it, even though I was switching. So it was still already damaged and weak. So the other shoe wasn't enough of a difference either. So I changed to a 3rd brand. And when I changed to that 3rd brand, just out of fluke because I had it, I was like, I'm going to try running in these today and see how I feel. No problems. I was like, whoa. I was able to run 4 miles, no problem, right? Yeah. And so then I was like, okay, I'm staying away from that other brand for a while. Once I pinpointed that part of it, and let me just see how it keeps working. So then I was working off that brand for a while, and then no problems. So I lost about 3.5 weeks of training in terms of building. I had to start building up again. So that was a little bit frustrating.
Right.
I have to share with you one of the big parts of this for me. As I started increasing my training, because I had to get up to, my goal was to hit a 90-mile a week before, and then to ramp back down. And that's pretty much what I heard. If you can do about 90 miles, then you're ready.
Right.
So I was increasing 10 to 20% a week, just depending on where I was numbers wise. But on average, it comes out to like 4 to 5 miles a week. I was increasing each week,
Okay.
ramping up. So my runs quickly went from 40 minutes to an hour and a half, and kept ramping up. This was a great headspace time for me. It was really critical. Um, with this, I was able to really reflect on a lot of things for myself. I was really able to work out a lot of things in my own mind, things that I needed to work out for my own self, like
Right.
self-reflection,
Right.
self-thoughts, absorbing that. Again, I'm always running at a pace that's comfortable, that I feel like I can run forever. And for me, that was anywhere from 9 to 10 minute pace. That's just
Yeah.
where I was.
For me, it'd be about 15 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, I finished that 50K just barely over at 8 minute pace, like
That's
average.
crazy.
Yeah. So it was pretty neat because that's how I felt comfortable. But yeah, so that headspace was really time for me to communicate with God, communicate with myself, to listen to things that were important to me. As my runs got longer, music became less and less important.
Right.
It was always about reflection at that point, and I needed to just get that space. And I really believe that for me was pivotal for that point in my life.
Right.
I really needed that, and I wasn't getting that anywhere else. It's a place where it's quiet. There's no I'm not checking my phone. Right?
Right.
I'm out and run. I can't do that.
Right.
I'm not taking conference calls. I'm not doing any of that kind of stuff. And so it was self-reflection. And I know now more than ever that we all need that. And we need significantly, like that's part of your day you need to carve into it. Where do you get your own quiet headspace? Whether that's where you're journaling, right?
Oh yeah, journal. My workouts is my stress reliever. I tell everyone I I never listen to music.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'll listen to a podcast or a book or something like that. But I'm like you when you're running. Usually I don't even listen to nothing.
Yeah.
I'll have my headphones in, my earphones, but that's just to tell everybody else in the gym, just leave me alone. But absolutely, and what I really learned from your story here and want to make a point is you're big six-figure income earner.
Yeah.
Traveling U.S., international, 4 kids, and going through a divorce. And the reason I mention that is because most people we talk about looking for excuses. They're when they're going through different issues in life, divorce, financial stress, relationship strains, whatever it is, they use those things as an excuse of why they can't do something like this. And a lot of times they do what I call a lot of self-medicating, whether it be, alcohol,
Exactly.
whether it be porn, whether it be, Netflix, whether it be, depression pills or whatever. And I think this right here is the true medicine. The
Absolutely.
true medicine is for you setting a big goal and you pushing yourself and you allowing yourself during this training time to reflect on you and to take ownership of where you are in life and say the way that I'm going to progress in life is for me pushing myself and making these challenges, seeing it through, and during these training times look at me and what I need to work on and using this time for what you said, self-reflection. And that's the key part of what I love about the story so far is yes, it's incredible to do an 8 minute pace for 31 miles. Yes, it's incredible to go do what you're about to share everybody with that you did last June. But more importantly, it's how it made you into that person that you are today during
Absolutely.
that 1 6 month journey in your life.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
it catapulted you to another human.
Absolutely. And that's what you're gonna see is this 6 months I grew more than I grew in the previous 10 years.
Yeah.
Like literally.
Yeah.
Which is significant. And yeah, I kid you not, the headspace is critical to all of us. We need to get the quiet time. It's so important.
Yep.
And yeah, so as I progress now I'm starting to get my increase in mileage. So I'm focusing. Okay, do I need to get up at 4? When do I need to get my workouts in? Right, everything's planned out. You have to plan it out every day before. So I look at my week. Okay, these are the times I work out. If you don't plan it out, then
It's not going to happen.
no, never happens.
No.
And so that's all going great. And then I realize as I'm sort of mapping this out, my biggest training load week is the week I promised to go with my son to camp with all the young boys, all the teenagers his age, for church. And I was like, how am I going to do this? Right?
Yeah.
Because I got to make this happen. And so that was my 90-mile training week. I need to get at least 90 miles that week. And so I'm ramping up. Everything's going great. And then we head out. So that morning I go and I do 15. So that week my plan is to do 15 miles every day. right? So
For
just-
6 days.
yeah, 6 days, 15. So that gets me my 90 miles.
Right.
It's perfect. So I'd go 15 miles that morning before we head out. And then we get there, and then, we get everything set up, and it's getting dark, and the boys are all hanging out doing stuff. And I'm like, you know what? I feel good. I'm going to go get some extra miles in so I don't have to worry about as many tomorrow.
Right.
Right. So I go and I run another 8 miles that night.
Okay.
And then, the next morning, I get up early, and I'm like, man, I need to get this running before everything gets going. I don't have enough time to get 15. So I'm going to go do what I can this morning. And I got like 10 miles in. And then that night, again, when they were just busy, just hanging out, the boys being boys, that I'm now going to do another double. I did like 8 miles that night. Right. So,
Yeah.
so I'm like, oh, this is working out really good. And I feel great. And what I was finding was my times running in the evening were actually faster than the times in the morning. I was like, after I'd been up all day, my body and fueled and everything else felt really good. And this was good training for me because I needed to be able to run 24-hour race, all different hours, right?
Right.
It didn't matter.
Right.
And so what I ended up doing was a lot of doubles, double days that week. And I finished that with just like 92 miles that week. So
It's crazy.
yeah, it was great. So I was able to figure that out even though we were in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
So I was actually running alongside another dam, like primarily run outside the campsite and go out, and I go way down this dam into this middle of nowhere. We're in this tiny town. We're in the middle of nowhere,
Right.
on this beautiful lake. And it was easy for me to go out and do that and come back. But it helped me from a motivation standpoint to be like, man, you can run twice a day. Your body feels great. You don't feel like you're overworked. You're not exhausted, and you're actually doing more miles than you expected.
Right.
And so come Saturday, I was tired. It was a long week. And so Saturday, I only did I think it was 10 miles because I was so far ahead for the week. I was able to take off those last 5, which was
Right.
great. And then from there, you start tapering back down.
Right. To
But
start healing, to get ready.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. But another motivation that I didn't mention about this for me too was for my children.
Yeah.
Right? I made this commitment, and they were an accountability part of it for me, as I want to show them, hey, you know what, you can do whatever you want. It's up to you. It's up to you what you want to set your goals to do.
Yeah.
And I want to prove to them that, hey, your dad can still do stuff. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that's a very big point. I mean, I have dads all the time call me. They're wanting their kids to play college sports or just to be better. And they ask me, what are some of the things that I can do the most? I've got them a personal trainer. I've got them a personal coach, whether it be in baseball or quarterback coach or whatever. And when they ask me that question, you know what I tell them? You be the example.
Exactly.
You can't tell your son, do this to be the best, and you're sitting on the couch eating donuts and watching Netflix.
Exactly.
I mean, our kids are going to look at us, and they're going to get a lot of inspiration from the way we handle situations, the way we take care of business, the way we get our workouts in. I mean, you just showed up to the office. You've seen what's going on here in the kitchen right now. I mean, I'm making meals for the whole week,
That's
and
not
I've
easy.
got separate meals
Yeah.
for the boys because they need more carbs. For Candace and I, we're getting more lean, pretty much doing a carnivore. And so, we're doing different, but I want to be that example. It's not just for me taking my shirt off and looking in the mirror. It's for my boys. When I talk to them about discipline, I have that authority.
Exactly.
Not because I'm the dad. I have that authority because they see my lifestyle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I could think of no greater example. Same thing with my dad, him always lifting weights, him always
Yeah.
working out. My grandfather too. I remember my grandfather in his mid and upper 80s was still working out every morning. And I remember him telling me, you know what? He's like, the most important thing you could do, Jeremiah, for yourself, for your health, is work out every morning.
Yeah.
I mean, and he lived to early 90s, but
Yeah.
he was doing push-ups even on his knees when he was old.
Yeah.
Every morning, he had his little towel, white towel
Oh,
down.
yeah.
And I never forgot that.
Yeah.
That was a great example to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are all the things that are really important, and those are the benefits from the fruits of what you're doing, right?
Right.
Those that you make an impact for people. They can see that, and they would say, "Well, wow, it's actually possible to do these types of things."
Right.
So now I'm at the tapering phase. So I've had my biggest week, and now I'm dropping. I think I dropped to the 70 miles the next week, and then 60. So I have just under a month to taper back down.
Okay.
And at this point, I started dating Asya in Turkey. We started communicating, and I was like, I'm going to go see her before my big race, the week of my big race, because that's going to be my lowest mileage race anyway. I already have to go to Europe because this race is in England. I get out to go see her in Turkey and stuff like that, and I'm just taking it easy. You're running less and less, and I'm like, man, I feel great. This is perfect, right? And so I go there. So I try to, it's a 8-hour time zone difference, and so that way I'm already there about a week early, so I can get used to the time.
Yep.
And then after I see her, I fly to England, and then I meet up with my buddy there. And I'm done at this point. I don't have to run anymore. I'm like, it's just the race. And then he's got another buddy that's going to run and race. I stay at his place, and then we head out the next day. And so you actually camp. You set up a camp because you're so far away from everything. And then you want to actually have a site, too, that you have all your stuff, your supplies. Fortunately for us, his wife and his parents were like our support team, right?
Right.
So it's me, him, and his other buddy. We're all doing this race. And so it's wow, the community over there is phenomenal. So if you've never been around one of these 100-mile races, and this is loops too. So there's 8K loops, about 5 miles every. You're going to do 20 times. That's the thing. Some people are like, "What? You're going to do 20 laps? Isn't that going to be terrible?" And I'm like, actually, for me, it's not, because it gives me something to count down.
Right.
Which I actually ended up counting up.
Right.
You think you're going to do it one way, you do it another way, and but the community was unbelievable. They had checkpoints along the way. We got, I was able to look at the course, and it's this nice old, everything over there is old, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's great dirt paths. It's beautiful. You have inclines in different areas, so it's a little hilly. You got some stuff you got to deal with, but everything's set up for you. So the food trucks, different things, pizzas for carb loading, stuff like that. And as I'm there and I'm going through this, and, I'm really confident. I'm feeling really good. I'm like, and I'm thinking, let's see how good I can do. I'm coming here just to finish this race. Let's see what I can do, though. Whatever happens, happens. And so we all said, hey, let's try to stick together. But if we don't feel like the pace is right, just go run our own pace.
Right.
And so we get ready, and they do like the youth fun run race, and we're all cheering for all the kids that do all this stuff. It's a lot of fun, a lot of cool stuff. So ours starts at noon and runs for 24 hours. And so we get there, and we get going, and I'm like, I just want to move up. The guys are like towards the back, and I'm like, I just feel like I need to be closer to the front, and so I'm gonna go up towards the front. And again, I'm like, I'm not gonna do anything crazy. So this is the hard part to understand about the race. I forget how many hundreds of people, like 500 or 600, doing the 24-hour race as individuals, and then there's a bunch of teams.
Okay.
So there's
some people are tag teaming.
Correct, or more. Like there could be like 8-person teams. I can't remember exactly how big the team could be. So
and you don't know who's tag teaming, who's doing what you're doing, or anything.
You don't know any of that.
You don't know who to go chase down. You don't know if they have fresh legs or not.
Yeah, exactly. And you're seeing people run really fast and different things. So you know that it's going to be your own mental headspace. And so I have my headphones in my pocket, and I have my phone in my other pocket. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go, and I have everything set up. I have my pre-made drinks for all my protein, my hydrations, all the different things. Like, so when I get back to that part of the course where our stuff is, I can just grab it, bring it with me, throw it in the pocket if I need to, whatever, or just down it and leave it there. Yeah. And it's all figured out. Okay, this is how you mix it, because I know it's going to be, it's going to be going along the way. So I'm like, this is great. I have everything prepared. So we go, and I take off, and I don't see my buddies because I went to the front, but I didn't go to the front. Like when we took off, people take off, right? I just ran. I'm like, okay, I'm at my comfortable pace. Right. So running along, and we hit our first checkpoint, and people are cheering like, this, it's awesome. Another checkpoint. So the halfway checkpoint in the back of that, they have more hydration products there for people, fruits, fresh fruit, stuff like that. So you don't have to carry everything along the way. Right. And it became critical later on, because you get to a point where you're like, I need more, all right, as you're going. And then I finished my first lap, and I'm like, man, this feels great. That was beautiful. Which is
8 miles.
Yeah, well, 5 miles.
5 miles.
8 kilometers, yeah. And so, and I look at the clock, and I'm about 45 minutes. So I'm like, okay, I'm running the 9-minute pace. All right, this is perfect. Like, wow, I'm surprised it's that fast, because it doesn't feel like it's that fast. Right. I'm getting text messages from people. I'm checking my phone, right? That's where, like, that's how easy I'm trying to take it, right? Just doing my thing and how I feel. And I'm just clicking along, and then boom, another lap hits. And then I'm like right at 45 minutes, and another lap hits, and I'm right at 45 minutes. And before I know it, I'm already past the marathon point. And I'm like, man, I feel phenomenal. And I'm thinking, like, this is going to feel, I was worried it was going to feel like it was going to be forever. No, I'm just, like, the miles are clicking by, and I'm getting the fuel I need, all the different things. And so I think it was around 30 to 35 miles where I felt like, man, I need more salt. So I had some salt tabs that I took. Because my legs felt like they were cramping a little bit up top. And then as soon as I took that, gone, right? And I made sure I had some extra hydration and going. And my fuel's really, really good. So before I know it, I'm 50 miles in. and I'm in third place overall.
Okay.
From all the individual people.
crazy.
Yeah, and I guess I'm like right behind the second place person. And I don't know who these people are, but I'm getting messages because people can see as we're
Right.
tracking online, and I'm like, man, this feels great. And so they're like, hey, all the food shops are closing down. There's 8 hours in. All right, I just finished 8 hours. So I'm thinking I'm halfway done with my goal, and I have 16 hours left to complete it. Like I'm way ahead. Like this is great. They're like, hey, would you like to get some food? Order something before it's gone. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I could just give me like a margarita pizza. Just I run really well with pizza.
Right.
That works for me.
Right.
I figure out what works.
Carbs.
Yeah. And so they're like, okay. And so when I get to mile 60, they have the pizza there. So I stop, sit down, and eat it. Big mistake. Big mistake. I go to get up after I was sitting down eating, and I can't get up. Like what? Like I literally, I'm like, my legs are not responding. What happened? Why is this happening? And finally, I'm able to get up out of the chair. Like I'm really unsteady, and my legs are super tight. And I'm like, oh, this is bad. I didn't think about like what the effect would be, and how like I needed.
You
to
thought it was going to be good to rest for a second and put fuel in your body.
Yeah. No, my legs did not agree. They're like,
Yeah.
you just did 60 miles. You've never run over 31.
Yeah.
You're almost double your distance, and you know you've been consistent 9-minute pace, right? All that stuff, and I'm like, oh, okay, so I'm gonna start walking it off. All right, so I start walking it, and it's a 8-kilometer loop, right? And as I'm walking it, and I'm trying to do a decent pace, I'm like, okay, well, worst case is I can walk this for a while until I get better. I try running, not happening, and I'm really struggling. I'm like, this is really bad. And as I continue to walk, it's not getting any better. And I finally make it back to the beginning, and I see my buddy David, who invited me. He's in this prep area. Getting something to drink and stuff. And I'm like, man, I'm messed up. He's like, no, he's like, it's mental. It's, you're going to be fine. Cause he's like, this is where I was, 3 years ago when I was struggling. And I'm like, no, Dave, this is not mental. I go, let me tell you, I'm not tired.
This
like,
is physical.
Mentally tired or physically tired. My body is not responding. I don't know what's happening. And I've never experienced this before. And my problem was too, is I didn't research enough to know like when something like this happened, like what was actually happening.
Right.
So I had nothing to pull from. I couldn't figure out what to do. And so frustratingly, I go back to the tent area and I just start rubbing my legs out, massaging them. And family's messaging me like, you got it. You can, keep going. Like you can do this. And I'm like, no, I hear you all. Well, believe me, I want to keep going and I'm struggling. I'm having a hard time. So I end up resting for about an hour and a half, almost 2 hours. I think it was, maybe it was an hour and 45. And I get up and my legs are like, oh, they're not so bad. Okay. I did enough. Right. And then so I'm like, okay, let's start going. So then I get mile 70 done, and then I get mile 75 done, and then right after that, my legs are like getting the exact same feeling of when I sat down, but I'm still running, and I'm like, why are they starting to seize up so much? What's happening? These aren't cramps. I've already experienced cramps earlier in the race, and I've had more salt and all that stuff. It's not that. It's completely different. And so I'm like, okay, don't stop this time. What you're going to do is you're just going to march along, keep hiking it out. And you're so far ahead. You have plenty of time. Like you're gonna finish your 100 miles easy. All of a sudden, it goes from where I'm trying to be at a 15-minute pace. So I'm not. I'm at 18, at 20, at 25. And years before, about 3 years before, I was on a longboard, and electric longboard, and I was going about 30 miles an hour, really fast, and I wiped out. I ended up messing up my left ankle, knee, and hip. I had wounds that were open that needed to be healed on my foot. Like it was terrible. It was really, really bad. My shoe got ripped off with a huge hole in it. My sock got ripped off and it just left all these wounds. And it took my hip and my knee, it took a few months for those to heal where I could actually sleep again. These things all of a sudden start hurting, these exact same spots, in particular my knee and my hip. And now I go from like this hiking to this limping. And I'm like, it's 2.5 more miles to get back to the beginning. And I'm going along, and now I'm at like a 30-minute pace, and that's as fast as I possibly go. And I'm feeling it get worse and worse each and every step. And I'm thinking to myself, wait, this is not like if I continue, like I'm not getting $1 million, right?
Right.
I continue, I know I'm going to do permanent damage to my body.
Right.
Permanent. Like this is going to put me out. Should I fulfill the 24-hour goal of the 100 miles that I had and never possibly be able to do anything like this again? Or should I say, you know what, accept what your body's telling you, like it's not going to give you any more, and live to run another day.
Yeah.
Right. So it was really difficult, and I was about 82 miles in, and I stopped. I said,
Yeah.
okay, you know what? I need to stop. This is the best that my body can do. This wasn't. I was exhausted. This wasn't my mentally broken down. I was still. When I stopped, I was about 10 miles ahead of my buddy, David.
Okay.
So 2 laps, right? And I was like, this is all I have. This is what I have, and this is what my body's telling me, and I'm not willing to damage myself to the point where it's going to be year, 2 years, who knows if ever, that I can run again.
Right.
And so I was very happy with what I did. So just to give you a heads up with all this, my buddy David, he ended up taking third overall.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So he finished 110 miles.
110 miles.
Yeah, 110.
Okay.
And so the guy who won ended up reaching out to me, and he said through Instagram, and he's like, "Hey, just want to congratulate you. You did a great job." He's like, "We thought for sure that you were going to win that race."
Yeah.
He was like, "No doubt in our minds that you were going to win. We saw you, like everyone saw, like how strong you looked and how good you looked and all that stuff." And I was like, "Wow, that was like." He did 120 miles, just so you know. That
Yeah.
guy. And I was like, "Wow, that means a lot." And along when I was going out there, I thought I was going to win the race too. I thought, no doubt, I'm going to crush these miles, right? And unfortunately for me, because I didn't have a big enough base,
Yeah.
and I wasn't able to do enough long runs to build up that base. My body couldn't handle that much,
Right.
which is fine, because I learned a little bit more about that, and I learned that, hey, next time. Well, when I finished, I said, "This is stupid. I'll never do this again." But we had talked, and I was like, literally that night, I was like, I need to do this again.
Yeah.
I need to go and train for this one more time.
Yeah.
But I needed to make sure I give it more time, more base, more build up. But I was blown away by what I could accomplish in 6 months, and that was the big thing. Was we tell ourselves, this is all we can do. We can't do any more. You've done enough. People tell you you're not good enough. You're not strong enough. It's not possible. You're too old, right? All those things.
Oh, yeah.
All those things I heard. I realized that we sell ourselves short, big time.
Big time. Yeah, all in life, all through areas. of
Yeah,
life.
like what I was able to do in that amount of time blows my mind still.
Yeah.
And what other people have accomplished as well, not just me, many people,
Right.
and different things. And we I don't know why we do that as a society. Why we allow ourselves to tell ourselves, no, we're too old. We can't do it.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, Jeremiah, is majority of us, regardless of what they would admit to, they're comfortable in life. I mean, so like for example, I'll jump on a phone call this afternoon with a guy helping him, and he'll say, "You know what, I need to make some more money," but he's not going to do the work.
Yeah.
Or someone that's making decent money, it's okay with them just being flabby and being lethargic and not pursuing anything. I mean, it takes work to pursue greatness.
Absolutely.
And, I mean, I love Goggins as well. Your story is an inspiration. And my thing I tell everyone is find you a story to inspire you,
Yeah.
to really dig down deep. I mean, I'm 48 now, and every year I get older, every day means more. And, I mean, I've heard since I was 25 and even into my 30s that every day is special, and you can make more money, but you can't buy more time. All these quotes that we hear on a daily basis, but the older we get, there's more reason for me to get the best out of every day.
Yes.
And most people are just comfortable in life. They'll tell you they're not comfortable because they'll complain about their boss. They'll complain about, not living in a nicer house or nicer car. But when it all said and done, they're comfortable.
Exactly.
They're comfortable. And that's why I tell people you've got to figure out a way to get out of that comfort zone and push yourself. That's where you're going to find happiness. If I gave you a brand new BMW tomorrow and you're driving a Honda Civic and you're thinking if I get a brand new BMW, it's going to make me happy. No, it's not.
Nope.
The only true happiness comes within, and the only way you're going to be truly happy is if you're pushing yourself day in and day out and chasing greatness.
Absolutely.
100%.
Yep.
And I 100% believe once you learn how to do that as an individual, you'll make more money.
Yep.
Your relationships will improve. All these different things is just going to come into your life
100%.
once you take care of self.
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes is by Arnold Schwarzenegger was, people would tell him, hey, you can't do that. No one's ever done it before. He's like, that's great because I'll be the first one to do it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we don't do that enough with ourselves.
Yeah.
We don't accomplish these things and become the first one to accomplish something.
Yeah.
Which the the benefits that I received from doing this, I can't even put it into words. Like I said, I grew more in those 6 months than I did in the previous 10 years.
Yeah.
From a mental headspace, from a belief in who I am, from a connection to God standpoint, all the different things, all the things that are really critical. What I've learned so much. And then, like, one of the benefits that came out of this was my son Sebastian, who I mentioned. He had a Spartan beast in October, right? And he went with two friends, and I was really sick. I was going to go with him, but I was really sick that weekend, and it was just the other dad. So his friends ended up getting ahead of him, leaving him around mile 7. Right? This is a half marathon with 30 plus obstacles, right? This is tough.
Right.
This is not easy. So call it a beast for a reason. So he's like I think it was 6 miles actually. 6 miles in, he's by himself at that point. He's all alone. There's people along the course, but he ends up pushing and pushing and pushing. And he's like, you know what? I'm not stopping until I finish this. And he went and finished it. And I firmly believe that, part of what I was able to accomplish and motivated him, but from the standpoint of, hey, I could do whatever I want. He has that belief in himself. And it blew my mind that he just never stopped. He said, he goes, I wanted to quit so many times, Dad. He goes, I remember this one guy coming up to me and giving me a snack, and he's like, come on, you got this. And it was just like that little push that I needed to be like, okay, you know what, let's go a little bit further. Yeah. And then he's like, I got to a point where I'm not stopping. I'm not going to stop no matter what. Yeah. So to me, that's a sweet, sweet thing. And I want that for him. I want him to have experiences of belief like that. It's funny because for me too, I've always looked at really difficult things as like, that's a challenge I want to accomplish. I want to go out and see if I can do this because that's exciting. Like for example, it's silly, but we had a storm here this week, right? Yeah. Last week. And I was out there every morning through that snow and ice, and I was the only one out there running still, right? And I was like, I'm going to go do this because it's hard. Right. Like it's cold, and you got to be careful. And I ended up running like a 10-minute pace. It felt like I was running an 8-minute pace or faster. Again, I'm still sort of running by feel right now, but it was funny because it just motivated me, whereas other people were like, man, that's too cold. It's dark. I don't want to be out there. I don't want to experience it, at 5:30 in the morning. And I was like, this is great. I was excited. I ended up coming out of this race with first all happy. Like people would think, oh, you didn't achieve your goal. No, my goal I achieved. I did the best I possibly could. My body's like, that's what you have. Right. And so that's what I did. I was injured after that. So I had a month where I couldn't run. Both my left and right knees were completely messed up. And so I took it easy. I did a lot of therapy on those things, and made sure I was getting all the vitamins and everything I needed. And I was able to start running again after about a month, which was hard. Yeah. All right. And so now it's okay. Well, what's next, right? And so people are always wondering what you're doing. So now the goal is to run the Boston. Okay. And I never thought I'd ever want to run a marathon. Never run, but now I ran over 3 that day. Right. And
82 miles, 26.1 is going to be easy. Yeah. Or 26.2.
Yeah, exactly. So me and David are training this year to find a Boston Marathon qualifying one that we're going to go do together. But it's got to be fast because at our age group, it's a tough age group. And so my goal is to break 3 hours for the marathon, so I can be competitive for the Boston.
I don't want to tell you what I ran my half marathon in. My goal was to do under 2, in a half marathon. That's moving.
Yeah. So it's like high 6s, I think, for the whole time. Somewhere right around there. So that's the next big goal. It's at the time when we set the goal, after we talked about after the race, I was like, man, hey, a marathon's nothing, right? Just did all this, right? No, it's never nothing. It's a beast in itself. Right. And so that's what we're focusing on right now. And I don't know from there. We'll see what happens after that. But that's where now I have a whole new mindset. People have thrown out the idea, what if you start, cycling and swimming and do Ironman? Why don't you try one of those? And maybe I will. Right. We'll see. But most people, like you said, at our age think, oh, our life's done. We've achieved what we can achieve. No, this is just the beginning. Right. And I don't want to be 80 years old, having to, drive myself around at a cart at the grocery store. Right. Right. I want to be one of those guys you see running in the 80s that are running races still, that are still competing, that are still doing all those things. But in order for us to get there, it's going to take consistency in training, and it's going to take consistency in our nutrition.
Absolutely.
And that's the hard part people don't realize. Like it's hard. It's only hard from the standpoint of just being prepared and setting that up, because you're going to pay the price either way, right? You're going to pay the price now, and you're going to stay healthy and feel great, right? Or you're going to pay the price later and be unhealthy, and you're going to feel terrible for the rest of your life.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no. I've told people for years. I've been in nutrition for 20-something years, and I tell everybody, you're going to pay the price for your health.
Yeah.
You're either going to pay it on the front end and have a good quality of life of taking the nutrition supplements, eating correctly, and all of that, or you're going to spend it on the back end of your life. The money you save to go golf, you're going to be spending that to buy back the health that you neglected.
Exactly.
No questions asked. I mean, it just every time. You know, I have people often will give me a hard time. You work out 6 days a week, you spend all this money on groceries, you eat this way. That's a little bit over the top, don't you think? And I'm like, no. Being over the top is laying in the bed, getting cut open with the sawzall, spreading your heart open, doing open heart surgery, and or maybe not even making it and being that lucky and not being around for your kids and your grandkids and all those different things. That's a little bit extreme for me, you
Yeah.
know. But 82 miles, great accomplishment. We're going to be following you for the Boston Marathon. All the people here that's my listeners, I know they're going to follow you. And great accomplishment, Jeremiah. To do that in 6 months is incredible.
Thank you.
That shows what a strong mindset and discipline through consistency you can do. You know, that's incredible. So congratulations on what you accomplished. Can't wait to follow you. I always ask my guests, and I forgot to tell you this, so I know I caught you off guard. But being a part of the Hard Truth podcast, I always want to leave with a hard truth, you know, and I'll let you come up with it, you know, and it could be as something as the reason I named it Hard Truth is because everyone wants to, you know, classify, oh, it's just easy. Just do this. You'll be rich. You know, just take
Yep.
this vitamin and you'll lose 100 pounds or whatever. But that's not the truth.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes a lot of work, discipline. So I want you to leave us with the hard truth fact. But before you do that, our listeners, I want them to follow you on Instagram. Maybe if it's okay for them to reach out, direct message to ask you, you know, questions, advice. Obviously, you have mastered, you know, the running program, and you know, from everything that you've talked about, I've learned a lot. I've been around it, but you know, changing shoes to, you know, this type of workout program. So if it's okay, I'd like for you to share your Instagram handle. That way they can message you, ask you questions, follow you, and keep up with you on the Boston Marathon, and then close us out with the hard true fact.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the Instagram is the J Gonzalez at the J Gonzalez. I would say the hard truth is that you've probably heard of this a lot, but anything that's worth anything in our life is going to take pain. It's going to take sacrifice. It's going to take time. You are not going to become who you want to be in 1 year by not putting in that sacrifice. Who you want to be 10 years from now, right? And to go along with that is if you don't have a vision of who you are or who you want to be and what you want to become, you're not going to be that either.
Right.
So we have to, as hard as it is, we have to set goals. We have to go out and we have to find reasons. What's our why behind that? You've said that many times, right?
Oh, yeah.
And we have to be ready to fail. We're going to fail along the way. We're gonna have setbacks. We're going to have injuries. We're going to have divorces. We're going to have people die. We're going to have sicknesses, illnesses, right? But if you don't realize that and don't accept that, you'll never be able to achieve what you want to achieve and push through. And so there is never a perfect time in our life for anything. The perfect time is today.
Yeah.
Perfect time is right now. So go out there and start today and accept, be prepared for things bad to happen.
Right.
And just accept, hey, this is a setback and I got to change this up.
Yeah. I call it the peaks and valleys of life.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't always live life on the peaks. You're going to be in the valleys, but really and truly, that's what really molds that character into who you need to become. So
Yeah.
thank you, Jeremiah Gonzalez, the Hard Truth Podcast. Why not you? You know, Jeremiah has been a great example of what happens when you find a goal that you want to accomplish. You have a plan. You're able to put in the daily disciplines through consistency. And that's what I want all of you listeners to do. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast, whether it's running, strength training. Find you some goals in 2025 to go push yourself to be the best you can be. Get you an accountability partner. Share this podcast with your friends and family. Follow us on YouTube as well. We do this podcast only out of my pocket. We do not do ads or anything. So to help the algorithm, share with a friend or family member maybe that you think is a runner going through a difficult time in their life. They need a positive distraction, something to take their mind off what's going on in life. Hopefully this will inspire them. Follow Jeremiah on Instagram. Keep up with him as we're going to support him for the Boston Marathon. Thank you, guys.
Let's go!